Hello and welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Founder, the podcast that tells the real stories of the people who make recruitment agency growth possible. I go straight to the source to discover the impact of great strategic partnerships between founders and their leadership teams and uncover why bringing in the right leadership team is crucial for the founder to build the business they want. We discuss what it takes to build a fulfilling career in agency without necessarily being a founder yourself and share the successes of the key people that, alongside the founder, make the agency work. It's unfiltered, honest and unscripted, and gives a real insight into the people that make the agency work beyond the founder. So on today's episode, I'm delighted to announce that we have Kate Cross from CoralCoached. Now, for those of you who don't know Kate, what I will say the first thing is she's just the most authentic, raw, open, honest and engaging person I could wish to have on the show. I know Kate personally, and I've been through the CoralCoached program, so I know just how good it is. But Kate's story is exceptional. She's come from a long recruitment background. Her and her husband have had a business for the last 17 years together. They've been through pandemics, they've been through recessions, they've been through different geographies all over the world, and the story is quite unique. And what comes across about Kate more so than anything is she's got this unique coaching ability, which has led her to the journey she's on now, which is with CoralCoached. And I'm just really excited for you guys to hear and experience that journey with me. So, Kate Cross, brilliant, delighted to have you on Beyond the Founder. Thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So what I wanted to do, Kate, was just start off. I'm sure a lot of people out there will know exactly who you are, but just give us 2 minutes, explain who you are, explain a bit about CoralCoached, and we'll go from there.
Cool, thanks. We founded CoralCoached earlier this year, and it is myself, Alice Carroll, and Simon Cross. And the reason we founded a coaching company is I come from a recruitment background and a coaching background. So I'm an NLP practitioner and an exec coach. Alice is a very tenured and established coach that helps SME recruitment businesses grow. And obviously Simon is on the desk still running a recruitment desk. So the three of us came together to put all of our expertise in one room so we can help small recruiters break that glass ceiling in headcount or revenue, or they might want to scale up, they might want to scale down. So we're strategically placed to help SME recruiters design and build a business that really works for them so their owners and founders can have the business and the life that they want. There we go. That was that.
Well done. Brilliant. You got that out in one go. Fair play. And it's a really interesting concept, and I'll talk about it a bit later because I've actually been through, Beyond the Founder's been through Coral's program, and It's phenomenal. But interesting paradigm, because how did you actually get into recruitment, and how did this all come about in terms of...
How did I get into recruitment?
So talk to me about your journey, really. How did it start out? Because it's from going from recruitment into coaching.
Before that, there was finance. So in my early career, I started in merchant banking, so in the City of London, and banking and finance. And I was in the city for 8 years. And the reason I fell into recruitment, the paradigm of falling into recruitment, was quite shallow, if I'm honest. I moved back to the South Coast, my hometown on the South Coast from London, and wanted to earn my city salary. And that was how it was born. So I was a relationship manager in the city. A friend of mine owned a rec-to-rec company. She said, listen, with your experience and my network, I think recruitment might be a good fit. And
when was this? When was it go? But take me back to
2002. So 2002. So I was interviewing with all the big finance and accountancy recruiters, as you would expect, and actually ended up working for a company called Hilmer Glynn, which is now part of Randstad CPE. It was bought by Randstad CPE. And the reason that I joined that company over one of the big finance recruiters is because of its culture. I mean, that was a word that back in 2002 nobody used, but it was just a phenomenal company, phenomenal learning L&D department. Plug for Alice. Alice created that department. So there's this wonderful story with the three of us, is that Alice actually, Simon was on her very first induction program.
And were you there before Simon was there?
No, Simon was there 99 or 2000, 99. So no, he was there a few years before me, and he was, say, one of Alice's first inductees. And then she wrote this incredible program called Virtual Reality Branch, where before you were allowed on the sales floor, in the old days when there were phones plugged into the walls and everything.
Ring the bell.
And we know there was no bell. Simon wouldn't have a bell in his team. You've met Simon.
No bell. Definitely not no bell. No.
She wrote this incredible program called Virtual Reality Branch. So before you were allowed onto the sales floor, you had 2 weeks out of branch in a live training environment. So you did all your theory, all your training, and then a week of practice where you were on the phones. So by the time you got into branch, if you were a contract recruiter like I was, you'd have a temp out. If you were a permie consultant, you'd have a couple of interviews set up. So by the time you got into that really daunting environment that branches can be, you already had activity.
And how many people in Ilmaclin at this point? How big was it?
Oh gosh. I can't tell you exactly how many. I think Alice was there. It grew from 80 staff to 450.
Oh, wow. Over how long?
4-year period.
Wow.
Yeah, 25 growth. Yeah. And I think, I don't know the exact numbers, but it was a multi-million, 100 something upwards. I don't know the exact.
Sell to Randstad, you've got to be doing.
Yeah, well, they sold to Select Video, and then Video were bought by Randstad CPE. But it was a big old growth period that they went through, and it was really exciting to be part of that. And we're still very much. I think everybody has this in their career, but we call it the good old days. But there's friendships. Simon and I obviously met. I've got my marriage to thank.
I was hoping you'd mention that at some point. I'm thinking, come on, Kate, talk about it.
So I started off in the Southampton branch. So after moving out of the city, falling into recruitment because I wanted my London salary, met my now husband and moved back to London because Simon was running their freelance division in London at that time, and it wasn't where I could pick up a desk and move patches. He couldn't move a 12, I think it was 12 strong contract division. It was phenomenal. I think we were doing over 4 mil a year in GM between the 12 of us. Yeah, it was an incredible team to be part of. And I would say 2 of our best, the groomsmen at our wedding, one of them was in that team. It was actually my boss. Simon was my boss. Anyway, sounds bad.
Not at all. Well, you first stood the test of time. You're doing something right.
Yeah, there we go. So that's our story. And Simon and I, so we were part of that team, and it was an incredible time and an incredible team to be part of. When the Randstad sale went through.
When was this? What year was that?
We left in 2004, and the culture had just started to shift. And Simon will tell you, and I'm sure you won't mind me sharing this, we just closed off the biggest year that freelance team had ever done. And the UK sales director said, well, what's next? And Simon went, we're still celebrating last year.
Yeah.
In the old days, it would have been a big party and celebration. And then in the new way, because we were then owned by a big blue chip, it was, well, what's next? And
squeezing all the time.
Yeah, and the family feel had been lost. And it's cool, the owners, I mean, good for them, they're great. And the so Alice was off on mat leave, I think. Alice spent a lot of time on mat leave. Like 3 babies. And Simon and I looked at each other. We'd gone out to Cape Town on holiday in November 2003 and flown back into a very rainy London and went, shall we do a stint abroad? So when I'd met Simon, he was about to go out to Sydney and open the contract division for Ilmaclin in Sydney. And he will tell the story that his career required him to stay in the UK. I think it's all down to me. It's because we met. And I, previous to leaving the city, had been exploring the options of going out to work in Hong Kong or Sydney with the bank. So I said, listen, I was always up for it. So we decided to go out to Sydney.
No family at this point, just the 2 of you?
Just the 2 of us, yeah, just the 2 of us. So we went out to Sydney June 2004. Simon went out and created a contract, or didn't create, they had a few temps out, but went out with a UK owned company that was in Sydney called Now Careers, and helped them build out and develop their contract team, which he did. He was doing 90 to 100 K a month in Aussie dollar GM. And
Wow.
yeah, he'd say when we went out, we were told there was no contract in Sydney. So I didn't actually go and take, much to my dismay, didn't go and do contract construction recruitment, even though that was my background, because we were told there's no market. Simon went in, and within 18 months, he'd grown that contract desk to over 70 contracts, all white collar, so no blue chip, all white collar.
Wow.
Yeah. And
how big was his team?
there was just two of them at that
Oh,
time.
bloody hell.
Yeah, there was two of them. So when he left, the reason we came home is because we wanted to get married in the UK and have a family, grandparents.
So you were doing, while Simon was building out that contract
Yep.
desk, you were doing perm recruitment.
No, I didn't do permanent recruitment. I'm not a perm recruiter, but that's not my passion.
Right.
I worked for GE Commercial Finance, so I went back into my corporate banking world, and I was running their on-site recruitment for Asia Pacific,
Wow.
which was interesting. It was interesting, and I was also looking after their real estate business and their healthcare. It was good. It gave me a really good insight to what the operational back end. So I had a really good idea operationally from a finance perspective what it took to run a business, but actually working behind the scenes, really high volume contract, and what went into that was interesting. But it was quite political, managing all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Just really wasn't.
Different geography, different culture as well. All no set finding your feet. Simon obviously sounds like he was exceptionally busy. You don't build out a contract desk like that in 18 months without putting the effort in and the graft in. And then, so you stayed out in Australia for
About nearly 2 years, 18 months, 2 years, yeah. And
came back to Blighty, the rain and the cold.
yeah, it took Simon about 15 years to forgive my mum and dad. I wanted to come home and get married and have a family in the UK. And
Fair enough.
it was a long way for the grandparents to fly to have the
Yeah, it is. And I mean, we lived in Liverpool when Lucy wanted to have a family, and that was too far for her. She wanted to be back. So we moved back to Birmingham. So I can't even imagine Australia.
It's a long way.
Yeah, you need to be near.
Yeah.
You need to be near the family.
And actually, because we're filming this in Dubai, aren't we? So we very, very nearly stopped in Dubai, and that we were going to do that, but we wanted, because it's that halfway house. But yeah, as it was in the UK.
But you know, and this is beautiful out here. I can see
it's
why
gorgeous.
it's my first time in Dubai, and it's absolutely stunning,
Yeah.
amazing. So this takes us on to about 2006,
2004, 5, 6, 7, 2007, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not long before the recession hit,
Mm-hmm.
the big crash. So you moved back.
Yeah.
Simon's got this fantastic contract desk he's left behind.
Yeah, and when we went, we burnt all our business cards, because that's what you did in those days. You had
Yeah,
business
yeah,
cards.
no point.
We're never coming back to the UK, so all of our old contacts, we, bin them. But so we got back March 2007, and Simon was going to set up a southern business for the company he'd been working for, and I'd accepted a job as a contract recruiter for a UK, but basically it was going to run my old patch in Southampton. So that's what we were going to do. And then we sort of looked at each other, and I said, "Do you want to go board level, Simon?" And he sort of said, "No, it's not really who I am. I'm a really good sector leader. I love on the desk recruiting." And he said, "What about you? Because if when we have a family, you're probably going to get pushed into L&D." And he said, "I'm not really training and development." And then we said, "Well, we're going to end up giving pretty much 3/4 of what we bill to away." So that's why we set that. Predominantly why we set up was to have control over our dividend and our earnings at that time. It was never massively to grow, albeit I had quiet plans that I wanted to grow. Simon had no
I
plans.
can't imagine for a second you would not have wanted to grow. And what's just to, as a side, what's Alice doing at this point? Is she on maternity leave? She's raising a family.
No, Alice was, so when Hill McGlynn sold to Randstad, Stephen Hill had said to Alice, "Listen, you've created this incredible training team and this incredible product. We'll white label it, and we'll go out to the recruitment sector, and we'll call it Hill McGlynn Training and Services, and you can go out and coach and train other SMEs to replicate the success that we've had here." I mean, they never won an award, but they were finalists about 5 times over. So it was this really gold standard flagship training and learning. And it was more than training. It was about developing leadership and embedding culture and being able to bottle what not just she, I mean, there was a whole leadership team, bottle what had been created in that company. And that's what she was doing. So she was all over the country doing that.
I was doing that.
Yeah.
Yourself and Simon are just about to set up
It was Southern Cross at that time, now Harvey Jacob.
Harvey Jacob now, yeah. And so how did it impact you? Because you've come back, you've made the decision, you want to start a family, you got married, start up, and then the recession hits. How did that?
Yeah, well, we hadn't planned to start the family quite as swiftly as we did.
Go on, talk to me.
Well, we got back in March 2007, wedding planned for September, sold a property, an investment property. So we're buying our first home together and setting the business up, and had the full intention to do that. We bought a townhouse in the middle of Southampton, and it was all cream sofas and glass and open larders and all the like really young sort of professionals. And we were going to have our offices on the middle floor, do that for a couple of years, move into offices, and then start a family. Of course, our son had completely different ideas and arrived a year later. So I found out I was pregnant a month after our wedding.
Wow. So you're in your dream bachelor, not a bachelor, but dream young newlywed pad. And all of a sudden, it actually needs to be a family home now.
So basically, I'm pregnant. The business is in its infancy, and then we are on holiday March or July 2008, and with a young baby. So he was only 6 weeks old, and Simon went, "I don't smell right in the market." And we're in construction. Well, obviously we've got a coaching business, but our recruitment business is all construction. And he went, "Should be flying this time of year, Kate, something's off." And then of course we went into it. Didn't I've got to say the recession didn't what impacted our growth as a company was more the fact that we'd had this wonderful gift as a baby, and we lastly found out that we were very, very lucky to have him. So timing, but what impacted our growth was actually having a young family and me not being as present in the business as I was able to. I mean, I was very present. I remember at 6 weeks saying to my mum, "You're going to have
it's different now, isn't it?
Baby, because I've got to go and run payroll." We've got like 30 guys waiting to be paid. So what impacted our growth was me not being able to help develop and build around Simon. But in terms of our financial growth, we had some of our biggest headcount. It's 60 temps out at one point, 60 contractors, and again, all white collar. We were very strategic, and what Simon and I have always been very able to do, and what Simon's been very able to do, is go into a market and look at what projects are going to see you through. And we said, we're in this for a few years. The Olympic Park was being built. There was a big hotel being built on St Pancras, and we went all the I could say clients. Tesco's had a lot of money invested for all their store refurbs, and that's the business that we're going to go after, and it just saw us right the way through.
Not long-term contracts they've got as well, so the funding's there. It's all
exactly. So that is the beauty of contractors, that if you are strategic enough to pinpoint projects and types of projects and contractors and clients, then you can ride out a recession in one piece. And just make sure you get paid. That's the thing, is making sure you get paid. But
that's, I suppose, where you're. I mean, and I'm building this picture in my mind. Simon, the phenomenal bidder, actually has Mr. Consistent over 20, more than 20 years. Obviously, yourself, sips in the experience, but you've come in, and I can see where that dynamic would work. Where Simon does what he does, you would oversee it and strategically run and grow the business.
Yes.
And if you're not there able because you're running, you're raising a family, that must have been tough. But you did it though, right?
Yeah, we did. So when Jacob started school, I came back full time into the business, and I said to Simon, "I'm not going to bill. If I'm coming back into the business, we're going to grow it, and we're going to put a team around us."
That's good.
And we did, and we grew. It wasn't phenomenal growth, but we grew to 10 headcount, which is reasonable for a lifestyle business. What impacted us actually is we wanted to be on the South Coast, but our client base was predominantly in London. And at that time, you had to geographically be near. It's very, very different now. I mean, you could be anywhere in the world and run your recruitment business.
You can do
it. So we did, and we'd got to that point where many SMEs get to. There's a few ceilings in growth. Get to 4 to 5 headcount, and your billing leader or your billing director's billings are not enough to cover the headcount if someone doesn't bill. We'd broken through that, and we'd got to the point where we were going through to the next sort of ceiling, which was 15. And we then had to become something that Simon didn't want to be and something that I did want to be. And we ended up in leadership disputes.
Today's episode is proudly brought to you by our sponsors, CoralCoached. So, do you get stressed by spiky revenue patterns? Want to offer your clients more? To create forecastable cash flow to cover operating costs and to build the ultimate asset? Well, CoralCoached are a coaching company with a difference. The leaders also run their own highly successful contract business, and they have captured their success formula and turned it into a hands-on, simple coaching program. Working with them, you'll get real results in real time, and a recruiter on their current program pulled 6 permanent vacancies and 1 contract vacancy in their first week. They're currently offering 2024 prices for their 2025 programs, and spaces are going fast. So please reach out direct for a discovery call, quoting BTF10 for a 10% discount.
And then obviously being married as well.
Husband and wife.
Yeah, it was tricky, and it really impacted our marriage. And we, in the end, decided that the family was more important, our marriage was more important. My dad was very poorly at the time with terminal cancer. And I sat in the boardroom and I said to Simon, listen, we can grow another business. We can't have these years back with Jacob or my dad. So I'm going to take a breath.
And this was when?
Oh, God, the dates all blur into one after 17.
Yeah, totally.
This, I want to say 2018. I'll check the dates. I remember about 2018.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to take a year. Well, I was actually going to take 6 months. I'm going to be really present with my dad. I'm going to really value the time I've got left with him when he's here. And actually, my dad was a stubborn old bugger. 6 months turned into a year. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Fabulous, a gift, a real gift.
Yeah. And then during this time, actually, we were nearly acquired. So because of our contract book and because we were in talks that the business was going to be acquired. But we didn't go through with that because it would have meant, again, losing control over what we'd grown. And we had a Bristol, we had a business partner down in Bristol, and that would have meant splitting that partnership up. So we just sort of trucked through that time with Mr. Consistent and his phone and a skeleton team. We had, interestingly enough, this is where Alice weaves her way back into the story, because she'd come in and I'd said, we need to go through this sort of glass ceiling that they're at, and I need you to do what you do, come in, write the plan for our business. And we didn't actually go forward with it, albeit we did dig the proposal out a couple of weeks ago, just for posterity.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that was interesting. Yeah.
Well, because interestingly, we'll look back as Harvey Jacob is still our recruitment business, and we're actually going through that process with our team. So it's weird. So Harvey Jacob is my business. Coral is my business. Coral is a client of Harvey Jacob. So Harvey Jacob is now a client of Coral, which is quite interesting.
We'll talk more about that.
We'll talk more about that. So I went off, and after my dad had really sadly passed away, we had a son who was year 5 and struggling.
9, 10.
Yeah, I can't remember. I do it 9 years. Yeah, so he was 5 going into his last 3 years of prep school, and struggling. Like, the kid that we had at home wasn't the kid that was presenting at school. What was coming out of his mouth wasn't going down on paper. And I said, I need to sort this out. I'm just going to take a few more months to get him back on track. And as it turned out, we had a very high functioning neurodivergent child that needed more than I had been able to give when I'd been working full time. So again, there was this whole, I'm just going to take a bit more time. So I threw myself into the last 3 years at prep school. And at the end of that, the full intention was to come back into work. All this time I'd still been operationally holding it. Yeah,
that's phenomenal. That's not easy to get your head around, to switch from, because I've been with Lucy 23 years, right? And she's worked with me on and off for the last 15, but mainly listened to me and been a sounding board, the sense check, right? But to switch from one to another and consistently and do it well, especially when it's so, work is work, right? But your family is your family. Jacob is your child. That's your priority. But you've still got, just because that's your priority, you can't let the other stuff slide because it all feeds into.
No, and I would say actually one of the times I did let it slide, and this is in no detrimental way to Simon. He is an incredible principal biller sector lead, but he does need to have it built around him. And I'd taken my eye off the ball, and typical sales guys like, well, I've got, 40 odd temps out. It's fine with one client. And I was, but we're not getting paid. We literally sat in our office and we were looking to move from a back office solution to a pure funding line because we were quite a mature business. And we were told, but on paper, you're insolvent. You need to file. And we were like, how that do we? That what? I'm going, but we're sending all these invoices out. Our debtors book got so big. So at that point, I came in, fixed it all up, and at that point realised that you cannot. It's very. We're a small business in terms of our actual headcount, but if you think about it, our contractor book at the minute is 50 strong. So we've got 50 individuals that we're responsible for getting paid on time. We're responsible for getting paid within IR35, within compliantly, site checks, and then making sure that we are managing all the risk to get paid on that. So it is quite...
it's a massive responsibility for a small business.
It is. So I've never... But because we payroll weekly, I've always been able to compartmentalise it. Tuesday is payroll day, Friday is... So I've always managed to compartmentalise it. Then obviously COVID, which threw us all 2 years out of everyone's life, which brings us up to pretty much a year ago to where we are now.
So one thing that I found really interesting, I get the whole Harvey Jacob really very successful business. It's a core, stable, and
compact.
It's growing again now. It's growing again, right? And you talk about that say a bit more in a minute. But it's why coaching? What is it with
Okay.
for you? Yeah. Where did the coaching come in?
Because there is a back story. I'd been quite poorly with an eating disorder, and I had sought help through the Priory to get that sorted. And off the back of that, have always had a coach in my life. So after I'd had some really sort of proper psychiatric care to heal from that, I'd always had a life coach. Or it's like, listen, if you want to go to the gym, the best way you do it is you get a PT. I'm a big advocate. If what you can't figure out by yourself, you get a coach on board to do. And I'd trained as a coach. There's a saying that the best way to embed something is to teach it. Yeah. So I'd trained as a coach. I trained as an NLP practitioner.
Wow.
And I had a very small coaching practice that I was running. So you've got a recruitment business and you've got a very, very small coaching practice going along in the background. And that's why, because I'm such an advocate for it. I mean, at the minute, I've got a coach to help me with my speaking. I've got coaches on board to help with marketing. And I will always check in and say, the first thing I did after my dad passed away was go and sit in front of a coach and say, is there any stress? Is there any residual stuff that I need to work through? And she said to me, the fact that you're sat here probably suggests no. When I needed to work through stuff that was coming up when we moved, I went and I've always had a life coach in and out of my life. Yeah. So that's
you come across very much like that. And I've done it myself. I've had coaches and therapists.
Yeah.
And, I know, and I'm a massive advocate and know just how important it is, but you're a very astute businesswoman. Yeah, absolutely. You can see that 5 minutes after talking to you, but you've got that way about you. It's listening.
Yeah.
I think the first time I met you, I was like, why this girl is just sitting listening to me. Yeah. And then she's coming back with something really rational. Yeah. And I know that sounds really simple and basic, right? Yeah. But the amount of people who don't have the ability or willing to do that. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just I think it's a natural flair, a natural instinct. So it's true. It's
practice. I think actually if you manage to successfully raise a teenager, every parent, by the way, should do NLP.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of looking at things. It's a different way of framing. And it's about holding space for an individual everybody knows deep down what's right for them. But it's about holding space and having coaching conversations around helping someone to get where they want to be and meeting where they're at that time. And it's quite an art to not input your personal opinions on it, but I can be quite strict as a coach. Alice is the nice, lovely, warm, safe, and I'm the one that comes in and says, but you said you were going to do this on this time, and I'm the strict one.
I can see that. I can definitely see it. And that brings nicely on to CoralCoached, actually. So talk to us. I will say, and I hope you don't mind me saying this on camera, Beyond the Founder has been through the DNA program, and it's phenomenal. If there's any businesses out there who are looking to redefine their purpose, their mission, their behaviors, looking at DNA, looking at how they're going to grow, even if you've grown and need to scale back and go again, I would massively recommend it, because I've been doing this for 20 years, right? I thought I knew what I was doing. I really, you stripped me down, and Lucy, we did it together, and now the whole mindset, the outcomes, everything has been phenomenal, so I can't recommend it. But
you saved me from a shameless plug there.
Sorry. I'll just, as you can tell,
what he said.
It's true though, and I can't recommend it enough. But there's much more to CoralCoached than just that piece of it. So I'd love you to explain, because it seems to be evolving and
it isn't evolving. So originally we were going to go to market with just contract DNA, and the reason being,
what's contract DNA?
So contract DNA is basically Simon and I's 25 odd years each of not just billing, but running a contract business. And we went through our process and said, what would we do? Day one in Australia, day one back in the UK, what did we do? And to be able to box that up and give it to a small recruiter that doesn't know anything about how to go about doing contract recruitment. And I brought Alice in. I say I brought Alice in. I phoned Alice at an opportune moment and said, Als, we've written what we know, but I need you to put it through. I'm a great coach. What I'm not good is writing programs. Als, she's got this gift. Oh my gosh, she just creates these incredible programs. So I said, well, could we run it through your filter? And she said, I'm actually looking for my next opportunity. And I just on the spot said, will you come and work with Coral?
Serendipity.
Absolutely.
Just stars aligned.
Yeah. Well, we didn't have a name at that time. So Simon and I had set this coaching product up. Do you want to get on board? And from then we've gone from, we're going to add an extra revenue stream in that is based on our experience, to let's form a separate company. Alice will sit on the board, and we'll talk about that above both companies with Simon and I. But what Coral has now become is a vehicle for us to help SMEs not just build out a contract desk, but be able to build out, if they're a contract heavy business that is struggling on their perm, we were able to, we've got a program to be able to help them do that. We've got a program that is able to help their leadership team develop. And then we've got, or we can work with clients very bespoke. The thing about coaching, and the most important thing is it's not for us to tell a business what they need. It's for us to sit with the business and us all to collaboratively figure out what's right for them at that time. So we've got a client at the minute that we're going into who need their leadership team restructured and figured out. Then we'll go in and run our contract DNA because they want to build their contract book out, and then we'll see where it leads from there.
That's phenomenal. So you've got
a lot of information, but it's been a really quick growth. I mean, August, Alice joined the board, and where are we now? October. Yeah. Oh, that's what happens if you let two contract recruiters have something. That's about an hour.
So Simon, I get the dynamic because I've worked with you.
Yeah.
And so Simon is going to continue to run and grow Harvey Jacob.
Simon will continue to, 75% of his time will be construction, white collar recruitment at Harvey Jacob. What Simon is able to do, he's an impeccable leader. So if there is a company that needs a divisional head to go in and spot check what's going on with their contract business and tell them where they're missing the opportunities and the gaps and get their team on board, we are able to freelance him out. I suppose that's a good word for it. But because he would be a very expensive hire, and one that you wouldn't want to make until you knew that you could afford him. So it's having that senior leader go into a contract division and help them. Alice and I are supporting that business to grow. So operationally and strategically, I will completely remain in that business, but that's 25% of my time. So whereas Simon's 75%, 25%, I'm
the other way
around, and the same for Alice.
Where do you want so and I can see the dynamic.
Train there.
That's okay. The dynamic works really well.
Yeah,
I can see that. But what makes you? What's the ambition? What's the plan? What makes you tick? What does Kate Cross see this looking like in the next 12, 24, 36 and beyond months?
We'll grow the Harvey Jacob team to a really comfortable lifestyle. We're not a high growth, high scale churn and burn. I know what it would take to run that type of organisation, and hats off to someone younger than me, 20 years younger. That was what I wanted 20 years ago. What I want now is a really, really nice consultancy lifestyle business where we can support strategic clients end to end. So we can run our business DNA program within our construction clients to place us to strategically help them hire and go end to end with permanent senior leadership through to contractors. So that's what we'll do with Harvey Jacob. We'll probably cap it at 15 headcount because that's a nice, comfortable number. And CoralCoached, I would like to be the go-to coaching company for SMEs looking to grow. We've been there and done it. Alice has separately helped over 25 SMEs scale to where they want to be. I think what makes us unique as a coaching business is Simon and I and Alice, we're still running a recruitment business. Yeah. So I'm very able to sit and as a recruitment owner, leader, and say, would I buy this? Do I want to be spoken to like this? How is the tone of that email going to come across if I was receiving it? And we're really uniquely placed, and we're still real-time recruiting. So we are still experiencing what's going on. Everyone's waiting for the October budget. It's going to impact us. We get it. We are able to feel the flow of the market. And actually in construction, you really feel it. You feel it first on both ends. Absolutely. So, so we're not, if there's changes in legislation, we're really current. Like let's suppose the way I put it, there was absolutely no ivory tower with Coral. We are on the ground still recruiting, and we're not asking clients to do anything that we're not doing in our own business.
No, I think that's what it's the personalities for me in terms of how it works will make this really fly. My thoughts on it. I think you're going to absolutely fly, and I think it will keep evolving. It will keep working through. But the brilliant thing is you've got an end-to-end solution. Yeah. And I'm looking forward, as Beyond the Founder, to working with you and as we go through our journey as well.
Well, I think the key thing for us, sports, why I think Beyond the Founder is such a great company, is the very first thing we did when we decided that we were going to grow Harvey Jacob again is having Alice on board, quite frankly. She was when I said, come and work for us, I then realised the impact of, oh my God, that is a board level salary that we're going to have to carry. And for a very small business, it didn't feel scary because we've got 17 years behind us and we knew what we were getting, but it was a leap to take on that salary. By far the best thing as a business we've done, because we are a leadership team. We've gone through our own process. We know where our gaps are, and we looked at our profiles and we looked at what we needed in our company, but we've got a strong leadership team and we can grow from there down. I think the days of bringing in rookies and billing leaders, training them up, are so far behind us.
I think you do need the strong billers, but the reason I've set up Beyond the Founder is exactly that. The world has changed, and people do need that really strong leadership team, because your marketing, your finance, your operations, it all needs to be absolutely on point. You need them cornerstones, and you've definitely got that with the three of you.
Yeah, it's exciting. And it's a new company, but it feels, when we officially launched, it's been the worst kept secret in recruitment, the three of us together. Sure. We officially, and the support that we've received from our network. And Alice actually said, when we got on our first, she just said to me, oh, I feel like I've come home. And we were teasing at this point, so I literally had to put my arms down on the screen. And she's shifted the dynamic. So what's gone from being a sort of a boutique husband and wife agency is now a company. Business. And she in no way sits between Simon and I as husband and wife, but she just adds a dynamic in that makes us a team. And Alice and I have been chatting on and off. We worked it out the other day, about 11 years about working together in a coaching capacity.
Time just
it just goes.
And I think what I loved about it, it's one of those, you've got to be careful, as a small business, investing in who you work, how you work it. And I think like most people, I don't like being sold to. No. I like being talked to, and talked with. Yeah. And that's the one thing I I loved about that process was not for 1 second did I feel under any pressure. It was a case of fact finding. And that's what I said about the natural coaching. What is it you want? What do you need? Let's see what we can define to help you. And I again, if there's anyone out there who would like to speak to Kate or Alice or Simon, I would definitely advise you to do it, even as an initial conversation, because personally I can talk from experience. Okay, I'm going to leave you with a question.
Oh no.
Right.
This is unprepped.
We're all it's unprepped, but yeah, totally unprepped. And just say the first genuine thing that comes to mind, if that's all right. What's the one thing you wish you'd have known earlier in your career?
To value who you are as an individual and the gifts that you bring to the table. I think because I've sat in a very quasi role for the last 17 years, I've sometimes devalued what I've actually brought to the table. So I think embrace your unique strengths, be comfortable with who you are. There we go.
Well, Kate, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. CoralCoached, I wish you every success and cannot wait to see how it all plays out. Would love to get you back on in 12 months or so, and maybe with Alice or Simon if they do it, just love people to see the dynamic of when you guys are together.
You want a coaching session, don't you, Paul?
I definitely want a coaching session. This has been brilliant having you on. Thanks again, and we'll catch you soon. Cheers, Kate.
See you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the show. I really hope you enjoyed it. First and foremost, we always try to add value to our audience, be it a founder looking to scale or a leader looking to progress up the chain in the agency world. And if we can do this in a way that is easy to watch and entertaining, then for me, that is job done. Once again, thanks for listening, and until next time.